Forgive us if we don't go into great detail looking ahead to Liverpool against Ipswich, but I thought it'd be interesting to get how the relationships between you guys and your dad and your son, happen throughout game. Obviously, you've got Marcus, Jan, who's a professional footballer. How did you deal with that from a father role and someone who's been there and done that?
Well, it started with my father. When I signed for Rapid Vienna, he saw the whole session and he said, this is not better than our local team in Norway. And they were 7th. We were in 7th division in Norway. But yes, when Marcus played, here he started at Duke and then he went to New Zealand, then he went to Scotland and now he's retired. But I was always with him in terms of trying to, not to say what he got to do. I think the most conversations we had together was not to talk about consequences. Because he will always, will I be picked? How will I play? I played bad. I played good. It was always this ongoing conversation of concentrate and doing well in training. Don't think of consequences. Whatever happens, just train, just work hard, and then the consequences come from itself. And secondly, I was always, although I wasn't the most when I respect my coaches, but always be respect for your coach. Because I remember when the guy who took him to the Scottish Premiership, and it took him from New Zealand, and he had trouble with him. And I always said to Marcus, well, just remember, this was the guy who gave you the chance in professional life. So try to be patient, try to have respect for him. And I think that is maybe what we can, as football fathers or football mothers or whatever, contribute.
Frank, it's interesting because you obviously worked alongside your father, who was a coach as well, and we know what your personality is like. You're quite outspoken, stubborn, not a lot of humility. How did that come across?
Thank you. Nothing, you don't want to add anything else. Well, my father was much worse than me, I remember being very young and we were leading, I think, 5-1 at first half, and I scored 4 goals, and he told me that was crap, and he was very hard on me. And after the game, we won 8-2, and I think I scored 6 goals, and I didn't want to go back home. I didn't want to see him. I cried, blah, blah, blah. But my father was very hard. But when I got older, I had a chance to go for a try in Stade de Reims, and where my father played, trained most of the time, and never played, but trained with Copa, Fontaine, all those fantastic players from the World Cup 1958. And I did a trial because of him, but I didn't accept the deal. They wanted to sign me, but they wanted me to go back to the academy. And I say no. And my father was so upset, he didn't talk to me for 2 months. So
wow.
He tells you how hard it was. But I always respected him, and I didn't I never confronted him where saying, I'm not listening to you, But I listened to him, and I was making my own mind, and it's why I think Arne Slot is doing. I think politely, he likes to talk about his father, give him a tribute, but we all know that he doesn't listen to his father. His father is only a fan, and I would have never listened to my father. My father was a coach, a regional coach, district coach from another time, so I guess he couldn't understand. And my son, like Jan, would have been a football player. You really have to be cautious on what you say. I think Jan was very smart to talk to Marcus the way he was talking, because it's a different generation. It's a different way of playing. It's a different way of understanding the game. And sometimes, we know football, but we know our football. We're not in the dressing room with the players and the coach, so we don't really understand the relationship that they have. So you really have to be cautious on what you say and respectful towards all the people working in that industry.
But it's interesting, we laugh and not speaking to your father for a couple of months, those sort of things actually, kind of cut deep at times. How much did you try and then adapt your coaching when your kids were coming through to not kind of have that same sort of hostile relationship?
If you ask me, if I took, when I was the coach for Marcus till he was 12, and then he was with another team for 4 years, and then I wasn't happy with the coach, so I took over when he was 16. And then a lot of people thought, what will he do with his son? Will he be his favorite or whatever? So I thought, I made him captain on the first session. I thought I just go in brutal, because then everybody was in shock, because I knew Marcus could handle that. But I have to tell you, when my dad was also a referee, And I've been twice booked by my father. 2 yellow cards by my father.
Wow. If only there was VAR. Frank, was it weird, though, like if your son had aspirations to play, and it's like your dad's Frank Leboeuf, he's won the World Cup, there's a lot of pressure on him for that, isn't there?
My son? Yes, of course,
Yeah.
of course. And he tried. He went to the academy of Nîmes, and after 6 months, said he had problem with his back, his ankles. I understood that he really wasn't ready for that. But yeah, it's always. I talked to Lilian Thuram about his kids. Yuri Jokaev, his father was a captain of France before Yuri played for France as well. So you have some players who have known that those situations, and it's difficult. I remember seeing Yuri Jokaev's father after a game with the national team, his father coming into the dressing room and being kind of the star. And I would have been quite embarrassed to see that. But Yuri didn't care. His father, he loved his father. He really loves his father and respected a lot because he was an absolutely fantastic player. But I would have felt, embarrassed to see my father in the dressing room talking to the coach. I said, what are you going to tell him? And, he's going to ruin my career. Well, get out of here. But, it's like when your father goes to see the teacher. Oh, yeah, we've seen my son. He's good. He's very good. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. Leave me alone.
What about you, Shaq?
So my father and my relationship, certainly around the game, was totally different. My father never played football growing up. My father actually, at one point, was the Caribbean high jump record holder.
Oh, yeah.
Played cricket for Trinidad and Tobago, but never played football. But then kind of started to follow and get involved because me and my 2 brothers played.
Right.
So so he never really had any tips in that regard. But to put things in his fullest perspective, he lost his dad when he was very young, 7 or 8 years old, and kind of pushed himself to achieve those things. So his only ask was, do hard things, test yourself, go and play for that team that nobody thinks you can make, and if you get beat heavily, so what? What's the takeaway? And that's kind of always has been his advice to me. That don't be afraid to take big challenges, even if you know you're going to get embarrassed. And now, my son plays. Well, I've got 4 daughters and a son. The youngest 2 daughters and my son have all played football, and I've just asked the same of them.
Right.
Take chances. Take on challenges. I understand when you lose, you're disappointed, you're heartbroken at times. But then once that dust settles, what's your takeaway? What have you learned? And that's kind of been my advice. That's been all the discussions I've had with them.
So if you ask them to take challenge, they're not playing goalkeeper.
No, thank goodness, no. One of my daughters did for a bit. Talia, my 3rd daughter, played goalkeeper for a bit. I hated every single minute.
Just one last thing on this. Obviously, you got 3 exceptional soccer, but really the standout star was the gymnast.
Yes.
Was that harder or easier to watch because you knew nothing about anything?
Harder. No, it was harder because, and it's not that I didn't know anything, but I'm looking at my daughter flying through the air, landing on a bar that's 6 inches thick. Just the possibility of injury is just so real. I mean, thank goodness she never had anything serious in terms of falling. She had a couple operations, but more wear and tear, not because of a fall. But that was just torture for me as a parent. As I say, you've got these uneven bars, and she's flying, 20 feet in the air, and then she's doing cartwheels on a 6-inch plank of wood that's 4 feet in the air. That was torture. That was hard.